Everyone, so let's just get right into it. The new Redmi Note 12 Pro Plus, the standout feature this year is the new 200 megapixel camera with the Samsung HPX sensor with optical image stabilization. And so that's a difference from last year's 11 Pro Plus, which had a 100 megapixel Samsung HM2 sensor, and that did not have optical image stabilization built in. So theoretically, you should be getting better stabilization this year, as well as better low light performance from that main camera, but we're going to test it out and find out. And so other than that, they both still have MediaTek Dimensity processors. They just moved up from, I believe, the 920 to the 1080 this year. Same die size, I believe it's a 5nm die set. So probably going to be marginal performance improvements, but you are getting that MediaTek image processing as far as camera quality. So most people probably still prefer Snapdragon image processing. I know I do. I think I still prefer the images that even come out of the Redmi Note 10 Pro because of that. It had a Snapdragon chipset in it, but we're going to test these out, see if it's improved this year on the newer 12 Pro Plus and how that compares to last year's model. So like I always do, I'm going to show you a bunch of photos and videos in both good and low light conditions, so you can decide for yourself which of these two camera systems might be best for your smartphone camera needs. So let's go ahead and take a look at all the photos and videos and let me know what you think. Everyone, so here's an outdoor video test of the Redmi Note 12 Pro Plus and 11 Pro Plus. As you can see, they both are recording from the rear-facing cameras. And this is starting out with the ultra-wide-angle lens on each at their max resolutions and frame rates, which is 1080p 30 frames per second. So again, ultra-wide-angle cameras capped to full HD resolution. So I'll just pan around and give you a feel for what this looks like side by side. Should be looking the same. I think they're using the same sensor for the ultra-wide here. And you can't switch between the lenses while actively recording, so I'm going to stop the video and come back with the main lens. Alright, so we're back with the main lens on each, and this is at 4K 30 frames per second. That's the max resolution and frame rate for the main camera, and it's not stabilized at 4K, it's only stabilized at 720p and 1080p. So again, this is 4K. It might look a little bit shaky, even though it's on a bit of a handheld here, because again, no stabilization at 4K. So let's go ahead and pan around to the cell tower. We'll test zoom here on that cell tower. So they both, I think, have 6x digital zoom. So first on the 12 Pro Plus here, so that's a max 6x digital, and on the 11 Pro Plus should be another 6x digital as well. So both 6x digital. The 12 Pro Plus definitely looks like it's stabilizing better, although the 11 Pro Plus could stabilize in post, but for now it's looking a lot more shaky than the 12 Pro Plus. So let's go ahead and back these out to 1x each. And so on the 11, let's get it back to 1, and on the 12, and let's go ahead and test autofocus here on the post with the 12 Pro Plus first. So focused up and away, and focused up, and one more time. So not bad given the larger sensor here. And let's go with the 11 Pro Plus. Pretty good, pretty snappy as well. and one more time. So again, pretty good autofocus and pretty nice shallow depth of field or natural background blur. All right, so we're back now at 1080p because it's now stabilized. You can see more of a crop. So we can test the stabilization here at full HD. Again, they're not stabilized at 4K. So walking down the stairs and through the pathway, you can see what the stabilization looks like side by side. And I'll just jog a little bit to see how it looks with a little bit more stress on it. So there you go, there's the outdoor video test of the Redmi Note 12 Pro Plus and 11 Pro Plus. So this will be a front-facing camera test of the Redmi Note 12 Pro Plus and 11 Pro Plus. As you can see, they both are recording from the front-facing cameras. And this is at the max resolution on each, which is 1080p. And this is at 30 frames per second. They both can record at 60 frames, but they're not stabilized at 60 frames per second. So I'm just starting out in a pretty even lighting condition here outdoors. You can see what it looks like without too much harsh light on me. And so if I pan around this way, you can see what it looks like with the sun now directly behind me and what that does to the picture quality here. And as I pan all the way around, you can see what the sun directly in front of me, and that's a really intense light right now. So you can see how that looks here with the video. And we'll pan all the way around and we'll just start walking so that we can test the stabilization here on these front-facing cameras, and you can see what that looks like here side by side. So let me know what you think of the front-facing camera on the Redmi Note 12 Pro Plus and 11 Pro Plus. So here's a low light video test of the Redmi Note 12 Pro Plus and 11 Pro Plus. This is the ultra wide angle lens on each to start at its full resolution, which is 1080p full HD at 30 frames per second. So the ultra wide cannot do 4K. And so I'm just panning around to get a side-by-side view here of how these ultra wide angle cameras compare. I believe they're the same ultra wide, so it should look about the same. If anything, it'd just be differences in the image processing. So you can't switch between the lenses while actively recording, so I'm going to stop the video and I'll come back with the main camera. Alright, so we're back with the main camera on each now, and this is at its full resolution, 4K, 30 frames per second. And at 4K, it's not stabilized, so again, there's no stabilization here at 4K. So you're going to get a wider field of view because there's no electronic crop for any kind of a stabilization here. So I'll just pan around to give you a side-by-side view of the main cameras and how they compare. And of course, things are going to look a little bit brighter. It lets in more light than those ultra-wide-angle cameras did. So that should be definitely the difference that you're seeing here. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the video, come back at 1080p, and we'll test stabilization. Alright, so we're back this time at 1080p, 30 frames per second. And so you can see a tighter crop on this, so less in view because there's that crop for electronic stabilization here. So this is what the same scene looks like here in 1080p compared to that 4K. And as you pan this way, we'll test the stabilization because, like I said, at 4K there is none. And so we're going to also test out these cameras and how they handle a little bit more challenging light, a little bit darker conditions. So obviously that was a very well lit area back there. And so now as you walk this way, it's going to get a lot darker. So you can see how these cameras handle with a lot less light. You're probably seeing some micro jittering right now, which tends to happen in low light. And so as you're around this corner, it's much darker. And again, both cameras are trying to brighten this thing up. Maybe the 12 Pro Plus might be at least a little bit more in the viewfinder anyway. As we pan up into the night sky, it is cloudy. And again, in the viewfinder, it's much more noisy and a little bit brighter on the 12 Pro Plus, while it's pretty much pitch black, at least in the viewfinder again, on the 11 Pro Plus. And really, it's not pitch black. It's kind of somewhere in between what these are showing me. As you pan over here to the left, you can see what it looks like here. And a little bit of a mid-level lighting situation, mixed light. So it's not completely dark. There is some light coming off the building, as you can see here. So that's how they perform in this type of situation. So there you go. There's your low light video test of the Redmi Note 12 Pro Plus and last year's model, the 11 Pro Plus. So here's a low light test of the front facing cameras of the Redmi Note 12 Pro Plus and the 11 Pro Plus. This is being shot at its max resolution, which is Full HD 1080p, and this is at 30 frames per second. It can shoot 60 frames per second, but it's not stabilized and it looks much darker, obviously, at low light, so prefer to use 30 frames here. And so I'm starting out in my usual testing spot with some pretty optimal lighting, so you can see what these cameras can do, and some pretty well lit area here at night. As you can see, a lot of lights to the left and to the right of me here. And so we'll just start walking so we can test that stabilization. And you can test that and see what that looks like here side by side. And we'll move over to a bit of a darker area as well, so we can see how these front cameras do in a little bit more challenging lighting conditions. And I'm walking by a fountain to my right, so we can test out the microphones and how they sound against the sound of my voice, with a lot of that background noise there. And if we pan this way, you can see how they handle those really bright street lights behind me. And overall, it doesn't look too bad. Maybe a little more flare out on the 12 Pro Plus, but nothing too bad. And if we move over here, which is this darker area, you can see what this looks like here side by side with a lot less light and how these cameras handle that. And overall, not too bad, not as noisy as I would expect, at least what I'm seeing in the viewfinder. But that's going to wrap up this camera comparison between the Redmi Note 12 Pro Plus and last year's model, the 11 Pro Plus. Let me know what you thought, and if the new 200 megapixel main sensor on the 12 Pro Plus makes any difference, and if you think it looks better than the 100 megapixel camera from last year. And so as far as what I think in low light, like we're saying in the beginning of the video, the optical image stabilization probably does make a difference. Low light photos, overall performance in low light does seem better to me on the 12 Pro Plus, which isn't saying a ton, but it is better. And I think with phones in this price range, and even with these kind of cameras, and you're gonna need some pretty optimal light. So in the daytime, with some pretty controlled lighting, you saw some pretty good photos, but even with some intense sun, it was pretty challenging, and it's gonna come down to the image processing, where some other phones that are maybe a little bit more expensive, a little bit better image processing, can handle that stuff a little bit better. But that's pretty much going to be the story for any phone like this. You're going to want the optimal lighting, and anything less than that might be a challenge. But do let me know what you thought about these two cameras and how they performed, and which one you personally preferred. And so drop me a comment and we can continue our discussion down there. As always, thanks for watching.